Hello everyone, I am back with yet another video. This is going to be one of the creepiest and mysterious disappearances I have ever talked about. So, if you could like and subscribe to the channel and then follow me and everything. As you can see, I'm trying to mix things up a little bit. I usually sit down when I do these stories, but I figured for you guys I should mix things up, so of course I'm mixing it up. But like, subscribe, follow me and everything, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on my videos, and all links in the description, including my last video, or you can check the end screen as well. So roll the intro. So, the first part of the story takes place in 1990. And I've made this video before, and I didn't upload it because it looked terrible, so I'm doing it like this for you guys. But, so this all takes place in 1990. A long time ago. So, it all takes place when a man and a woman meet. It's not really clear what their names are into the story, but we'll just call them Jake and Kim for the sake of it, because there's no really details on what their names are. But anyways, so Jake and Kim meet. Jake is a mortgage broker, and of course Kim is a person who works at the local farmer's market. Now, they didn't live in a city, they lived more into the countryside. So that is important to know for later on in the story. But at some point, Jake decides to try to go to the supermarket, except the fruit he got was something else. He met Kim, and Kim was really nice. So he asked for her number, and she agreed. They exchanged numbers and went on with their day. 2 days later, they decided to text each other. Now, fast forward a couple months of texting and calling, they decided to meet up again at a local restaurant. This restaurant wasn't fancy, but it was decent enough. So they go there, they have a nice time, and they decide to have another date. Fast forward in the relationship, they eventually got married and had a kid. They lived in a small apartment, and this part of their city and their state weren't really good. I think it was in Texas, and their area wasn't really known for being nice. There was a lot of shootings and a lot of thefts and break-ins, and it was just a generally crappy neighborhood. So they decide to buy a farm. So eventually they buy the farm, and him and their daughter decide to go. Their daughter we'll call Betsy. Okay? So, as one might think, they all moved up and went to the farm. After putting Betsy to bed, they realized that when they bought the farm, they bought a shit ton of area as well, a lot of land, and a lot of wheat fields. So, as you know, you have to use a scythe to cut down the wheat fields. I guess you don't have to, but it's for foot. Anyways, so the next day, they get up, Kim goes to feed the cows and the horses and the chickens and shit, and Jake decides to go cut the wheat and sell it or whatever they do with it after he drops off her daughter, because she was supposed to go to daycare or something. So they brought her to daycare, and he came back and started cutting the wheat, and everything was normal. And we're gonna fast forward 2-3 years ahead. So at this point, their daughter is around 3 years old, and they just love their farm. It was like their home, their dream home. It was perfect. They had money, they had open lands to play. But what Jake didn't know is that his wife, that he has now, that's their wife, they got married, his wife was actually having an affair with his boss. And it was relatively new. It wasn't before she was loyal, but now she's not. And she had gotten pregnant with his boss's son. I am not kidding. So she makes her husband think that it was his, but it was not. And What I don't get about this theory is that how could you betray your husband when you have a kid? That's just messed up. But let's keep going to the story. So the story goes is that he was very, very, very in love with this woman and loved his son. He was loyal. The wife, on the other hand, was not. And the story goes is that one day he was cutting the wheat. He looked over to his wife and waved at her. Their daughter was playing with her truck. It was like a toy truck outside off the porch, but the little girl could be seen. When they find out that there was a storm coming, they all rushed inside. The next day, they found out that not much damage had occurred despite this huge and violent storm. And because of that, they didn't have to do much cleaning up. After cleaning up, he went back out to the field to cut more wheat. And when he did, he saw a truck pull up. Now, at this point, the wife was getting kind of daring because she called her lover to come and have sex while her husband is home. And I don't understand why. You know, it's one thing to cheat behind his back, but you're doing it in front of him now. She doesn't give a fuck. And he rushes over and sees what happens. They end up getting a divorce, and the father was granted custody after the judge found out what happened. And so he was granted custody. One day, his ex-wife comes into their property, which, by the way, it's important to know that when they bought the farm, this woman wasn't on the paperwork because she didn't want anything to actually do with the farm at first, so she doesn't have her paperwork done, and only his name is on the farm. So after they got divorced, he kicks his wife out and keeps a daughter, and you know, everything seemed to go downhill for her because her and her lover bought a small house in town. It wasn't nothing big or fancy, but it was a decent house, and so they bought that house. She was in the middle of fighting custody for her daughter, and every time she got so close, she ends up taking like 10 steps back in the process of getting custody of her daughter. And she swore that if she got custody, her ex-husband would never see her again. And she had been threatening him with legal action, sending guys over there to beat him up. Luckily, he has a double-barrel shotgun, so he pulls it out, fires it in the air, and every single guy that she said that beat him up leaves. But not before. Multiple of them has said, "We're here to kick your ass, your ex-wife sent us." And he recorded all of that. Alright? Now, at this point, it's the early 2000s, so really, phones and cameras weren't really the best quality, but you could clearly tell it was a man's voice and you can hear what he said. So, he recorded all that, sent it to the judge, and yet again, there you go. She didn't get custody. Well, one weird day comes along where she comes up begging for him to take her back, just begging, crying and everything, on her knees, literally on her knees begging. And he realizes that he still has love for her, but just when they were about to get back together, just when they were about to settle the argument and get back together, he sees someone behind her talking to someone on a phone in a car he didn't recognize. And when that happened, he realized he was being set up. She wasn't going to make up with him, and she wasn't going to have someone else beat him up. She was going to give him a bomb in a box. It was like a wrapped bomb present. And what she didn't know is that her daughter was inside taking a nap. So when he called the police, they arrested her and her assailant, who turned out to be another lover she had, and they went to jail. When the judge found out, they granted her, they said she will never ever get custody, and she has to spend time like 3 to 5 years in prison, because not only was that attempted murder, but her daughter was in the house, and the size of this bomb literally could have exploded the whole house and killing her daughter, which I think is pretty stupid. Well, she's in prison, alright, and for some reason, somehow, when she's in prison, she got a retrial, and she somehow got out and free because of technicality. I don't know why, but I'm not a lawyer. and I don't work for the government, so I have no idea how. But she got out, and one day, as she's walking to her crappy house that she is renting, because, I don't know. So, basically, she's got a whole new house that she's renting, not buying this time. Still trying to sell her former house. And so she's there, and then before she goes to bed, she decides to wish that her husband will take her back. She wants to be a good wife this time. She genuinely believes that she can change. So she goes back to him, and they drop the lawsuit. Everything's good, and they end up going back together. Even though he's taking care of her son, who eventually gets taken away, and he goes to her lover or something. And one day she's sitting there in her rocking chair. She's loyal again. She's watching her daughter play with her little toys and whatnot. And all of a sudden, she looks up. Her husband is gone. He didn't run off. He didn't get picked up by a truck. He was just flat out missing. So she picks up her daughter. She runs to the wheat field, and she realizes that his tools are right here. His truck's over here. The wheelbarrow's up here. But her husband is no longer to be found, or her boyfriend, or whatever you want to call him by now at this point. But after this, they look all over for him. There's no footsteps, there's no nothing. But right where he was standing, it was a small circle of wheat that he cut. And right there is the only wheat that's dead. That one little spot dead, but everything else is full of life. Fast forward a couple days, she's still upset that she did this, that she fucked up her life. And what she realized is that several years earlier, she had wished that he would disappear. And then all of a sudden it happened. Now, I don't know why they included it in this story, but I highly doubt that's what happened. But anyways, so he just disappears. Well, one day, as the kids are playing in the wheat field right where their dad left or was taken, they hear his voice saying, "Help, help." It's like a whisperish help. But it would soon fade away, and they will never see or hear their dad again. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun making it. I did a lot of research on this story ever since I've heard about it. So I hope I did it justice for you guys. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.